Hi everybody, Jane here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the book How to Find Success Selling eBooks. And it is by Victorine Lieske. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce her name, so sorry if you've heard other pronunciations. And she is a New York Times bestselling author. She also has a podcast, The Writing Girls, that I followed, and that's kind of why I was interested in picking up a copy of her book in the first place. I did want to show you, the book is a little bit on the small side. So keep that in mind when you decide, if you decide to buy a physical copy of it. I like physical copies of my nonfiction books because I like to make notes in them, I like to highlight, and I'm sometimes a little bit disappointed because the cost is a little high for a book, especially if it's a little on the small side. So here's kind of the thing about this book. It is great as a starter book. If you are just getting into the ebook business, this is a great overview of what you need for a minimally viable product to sell. So it's a lot of the basic things, like making sure you have a good cover, making sure you have a story that works and lives in a genre. It's great for somebody who is just starting out. If you are just starting out and just trying to figure out the ebook marketing and writing your first book or couple books, this is a book that you can learn a lot from. If you are further on your journey, I felt like there wasn't a lot in there that I hadn't read before. I'm very well read in books of this nature, and I usually expect to find one or two things I didn't know, or one or two really inspiring tidbits or things that really, really stood out to me as, oh my gosh, I get something that I didn't get before. And I didn't really find that in this book. For me, this book was like very, very basic. And that's not a bad thing, but it wasn't a good fit for me for that reason. So I do think that most of what Victorine has to say is good advice. And like I said, if you're a beginner, this is a book on how to make a minimally viable product. For anybody who's not familiar with what that means basically the lowest quantity of a book that can reasonably be expected to meet expectations. So, if I'm writing a romance, it has to have certain things, like a boy and a girl, or a boy and a boy, or a girl, or two people, generally, unless you're doing reverse harem, two people meet, or harem, and fall in love, and we follow their story, and they have a happy ending. Those are kind of the minimum you have to have for a romance. For a mystery, there has to be some kind of crime happen, or something, maybe not a crime if it's a kid's book, but for most adult books, a crime happens, somebody solves it. That is the minimally viable for a mystery. If you don't have those things, you can't write a mystery. And I felt like this book was kind of the minimally viable things that you need for an ebook to sell. It talked about things like writing a good, well-edited story, having a cover that shows your genre, a little bit of the basics of marketing. She didn't get too into that. There wasn't, like I said, for me, any, golden egg. There wasn't any, oh my gosh, I never understood that before, that's amazing. But there was a lot of stuff I'd heard before, a lot of stuff that, makes a lot of sense, is really good at telling you the basics. The things that if you're just starting in the industry, this is the information you need. And it's nice, it's tight, it's compact, it's there. So if you are a new writer, pick this up. It's good. For a new writer, I would say it's about a 4 out of 5. I would recommend it to a new writer who's just learning, and as a matter of fact, I will probably be handing this off to one of my friends who's who's getting into the industry, who's writing their first book. If you're an experienced writer, you have a few books out, you've been studying the industry for a while, you've been, reading other books by industry leaders, I feel like you're not going to gain a lot from this book. You're probably going to be like, okay, this is stuff I've heard everywhere. I already know. It's very basic. So if you're if you're fairly experienced, if you've been studying the industry for a while, there's not a lot in this book that I feel you haven't already heard. So that's my review. For myself, I'm going to give it like a 3.5 out of 5 stars, just because so much of it is stuff that it is very widely known, and there wasn't a lot of really new information that just made me go, but again, if I was a new reader or a new writer, this would be an amazing starting book. So that's my review of how to find success selling ebooks. I definitely do recommend also popping over to Victorine's YouTube channel. She is part of the Writing Girls, and they do much longer streams than mine. They're doing like hour and a half streams talking about different things, and they get into a lot more detail about things on their site than, for instance, I do in my videos. So she's worth watching and listening to. And, you know, I certainly wasn't disappointed with her knowledge. She has it. But like I said, this book, if you're new, yes, it's great. If you've been in the industry for a while and have read a lot of books, skip it. All right. Thanks, guys. If you've read it and you agree or disagree, feel free to comment below. Remember to like my video and subscribe for more content. All right, guys. Thanks. Bye.